Hello. Good morning, everyone. We are welcome to the second Latin American Conference of the Sustainable Development of Energy, Water, and Environmental Systems. It's good? Okay. Okay. First of all, for this opening ceremony, we will listen some words of our Dean of the School of Engineering, Professor Alejandro Martinis. Please, Alejandro.
Dear members of SDEWES, staff and officers, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. As a dean of this engineering faculty of Buenos Aires University, I would like to welcome you to our facilities. In this opportunity, in the House of Engineers, I cannot leave aside to say very few words about education and sustainability. Nowadays, we are discussing a strategic educational reform for our 12 degrees under a project called 2020 Plan. In other words, here in this faculty, we are planning to change our 12 degrees and even to add 2 more ones. On one hand, we are updating specific knowledge in order to be aligned with the current and future demands. This implies more hours of data science and informatics in general terms. On the other hand, we plan to consider new competencies to develop, like interdisciplinarity, research capability, entrepreneurship. Basically, these competencies will be acquired throughout some practical subject when students do integrative practical works, active as they are engineers. We are reinforcing the environmental and energy impact analysis done by our students. We also plan to add to this kind of work a social impact analysis. Our students have to practice and analyze sustainability and social impact. We are very compromised with a very long-term plan that makes our world more sustainable throughout time. Education is key to success in this initiative. This year, our country is celebrating 150 years of engineers. We are celebrating the first graduation. Luis Augusto Huergo was the first engineer graduated in Argentina and in our university. You are in the oldest house of engineers in Argentina. It's a great honor to have you here this day discussing and trying to make this world better. Thank you very much and good luck in your activities.
Thank you, Alejandro. And I know that you have to leave now because you have another meeting waiting for you. Thank you. Now we will listen some words from the Secretary of Postgraduate, Doctorate, and Researcher. Professor Luis Fernández Luco, please, if you go.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to welcome you to the second SDEWES in Buenos Aires, in our faculty. It's an honor for us to host such an important event, and we know people from all the world, you are coming to join all the efforts to work together to have a better and more sustainable world. As a secretary of the post-degree studies and PhD and master in this faculty, I would like to say you that we are increasingly giving more and more importance to sustainability in all the ranges. But especially for master and the careers. We have 2 or 3 that they are especially on that subject. We have more than 400 students taking their postgraduate studies other than PhD, and I know that there is a very, very full way of doing research, applied research for the final works and for the thesis. So I would like you to join the teams. I know that with the electronic media, we can be communicated very easily, and please trust on our the capabilities and our teams, because they are very, very good and proud of working together with the SDEWES team. Some of these works will be presented here, and I'm glad to say that they are very nice. They're very well done. Just to finish, I wish you a very fruitful meeting, and I know this is a first step. We will continue in touch for the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Luis. And now is Professor Cristina Vazquez, who is in charge of Doctorate in this secretary. So, please, Cristina.
Thanks, Susana. Good morning, everybody. Once again, thanks the organizing committee of SDEWES for choosing our country, Argentina, our city, Buenos Aires, and our Faculty of Engineering. As Dr. Luis Fernández Luco said before, our institution is not only involved in education, but also is involved in research and development. And in this sense, I would like to say you that we have the PhD career. Our doctorate career is 32 years old, and during this period, almost 150 students have obtained their PhD. The PhD in engineering is categorized as A. A is the highest quality according to the CONEAU, that means the Commission of Accreditation in Argentina. Our doctorate is during almost 5 years, is free of charge, and we have different possibilities for the study areas. We have doctorates in electronic, energy, industrial chemistry, and of course in environmental and sustainability field. So one other thing I would like to puntualize is our doctorates can be done as the co-tutel modality. What that means? Co-tutel modality means that you can do the doctorate here in our institution and in another country. And in this sense, you have the double title from this institution and for the other institution. We think that the co-tutel modality is a good option because you share different countries, the different modalities, the different knowledge. You can stay here 6 months and in the other country 6 months, and you have a double diploma. On the other hand, if you have enough experience, also I would like to invite you to participate as jury of our thesis. For the countries beside us, that means Chile, Brazil, Uruguay, Peru, Bolivia, we can invite you to come here and to stay present. If not, the possibility to participate in our thesis is by the streaming modality. So, yesterday we did a very good opening with a very nice tango class. Now is the academic session. So thanks again for coming us. And I think this conference will be the best, one of the best conferences for the SDEWES group. Thank you very much.
Well, now is my turn. So I will provide this for acknowledgement. I thank you very much, the SDEWES Center, for choosing us for this conference, and particularly to choose the School of Engineering for the venue of the conference. And especially, I thank you for coming. I'm very happy that you are here. And we have a little present for you, as you can find in your bags. You will find a pencil, a wooden pencil, that have seeds. And when the pencil reaches its end, you can plant it. And seeds will grow, and different plants will grow. And we really hope that at the same time the plants grow, new ideas about sustainable development of energy, water, and environment systems will grow also in your minds. So thank you very much for coming. And now we will listen some useful information, technical information, from Victoria Willson. Vicky, please. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Susana, for the introduction. I'm Victoria Willson. I'm part of the local committee. I just want you to give you some reminders of rules and politics of SDEWES, and also some practical information for these days. Regarding rules, let me remind you that regarding paper publication, special issues in journals, it is mandatory that everybody should present their work. They should be physically present at the time they have their session, all right? SDEWES is very strict on this. Otherwise, unfortunately, the paper will be canceled. The chair of every room will have the job of completing the form they are assigned in order to check this. And the same happens in poster case. Now we have the poster session at 11, and each of you that presented a poster have to be beside your poster, because maybe the evaluating committee have some questions to make to you, and they also will check if you're present or not. Of course, we're very strict with time. You have to be on time when your presentation is, otherwise your 20 minutes will pass and we'll have to start the next one, because that's the fair thing to do. That's about the rule part, okay? Now, regarding the practical information, let me tell you that as this is a public building, the best advice I can give you is that you don't leave your belongings everywhere. Of course, nothing will happen, but it's better if you take your things with you when you go to lunch and everything. It's my recommendation. Second of all, you know the social program we have tomorrow, you'll see that the schedule says that you have to be here at 2. It would be better if you guys can come 15 minutes earlier, so at 2 we can set off on time and don't be late and take advantage of the day while it's still early. When you pack your bag to go tomorrow to the excursion, I would recommend you to bring a more comfortable change, so you can change there, and maybe another one if you feel like for the dinner. Okay, we're gonna have asado. And probably it's also a good idea that you bring sunscreen, bathing suit, and mosquito repellent, just in case. I think there won't be a lot, but if you can have 1 or 2 per group, it will be awesome. Then we're gonna come back here at 10 p.m., okay? At the front of the university again. Then regarding the layout of this conference, everything will happen in the ground floor and in the first floor. We're gonna have, well, if you want to find the restrooms, you're gonna see that each side of the escalators, you have men's and women, all right? In the first floor, we only have men's restrooms, so ladies have to go downstairs to the bathroom in this floor. A coffee break on the first day will happen here in the 2 occasions, and the other 2 days will be in the first floor. Regarding lunch, we're gonna bring out some lunch boxes and you guys can go wherever you feel like to eat. I recommend to go to Puerto Madero, which is a very nice area around just a few blocks from here. But if you want to remain in the building, you can go downstairs that we have the dining room, or maybe upwards that we have a hall in the first floor. If you have any doubt, you can consult me or anybody from the group. Then you should remember that we have a group photo after this session, after Natasha's award session. So please remain in the sala so we can go in front of the building to take the picture, all right? And that will be all. If you need anything, of course, you can approach us, any of us, or the guys with the black shirt, and we will help you with anything. Now it's Neven's turn to talk. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Vicky. Very useful information. Well, and finally, to closing this opening session, we will listen some words of our alma mater of this SDEWES conference, Professor Nevin D. Duić.
Thank you, Susana. I would really like to thank Susana and Victoria for organizing this wonderful conference. It was not very easy. We had change of government in the meantime and many things happened, but we managed together to organize second Latin American SDEWES Conference. So I would also like to thank all other members of local organizing committee who will help us in these 3 days, that everything goes smoothly. I'm quite impressed that we actually started nearly on time. I was expecting we will be more Latin American and be later, so we can do it. This is an excellent opportunity to present new research in your fields and also to improve the publishing, because we have this very good connection with journals. So I hope that you will enjoy this conference. I would like to thank UNESCO, who is, this conference is organized under auspices of UNESCO. Also, I would like to thank our sponsors of SDEWES conference series that help us to organize the conference. It's there, okay. We have participants, 108 participants, from 26 countries, from 50 cities and over 60 universities, institutes and companies present. Around 2/3 are from Latin America and 1/3 is from the rest of the world. So it's a good balance. Why do we do these regional conferences? Because we want to decrease the footprint of many people traveling around the world. Also, we want to decrease the cost for participants. Only few of us who are organizers have to travel. In this way, we bring a leading conference also to a regional scientific public. We have, these are the countries participating in the conference. As I said, 26 countries. Quite a lot of participants are from Brazil and Argentina. Thank you very much for coming, but there are also other Latin American countries, Colombia, Chile, Mexico. Do I miss anyone? Okay. SDEWES conference series started in 2002 And in the beginning, it was a relatively small conference, but last year in Dubrovnik, we had 600 participants. How do we organize it? Every odd year, we organized one big in Dubrovnik, one big conference in Dubrovnik. Every even year, we organize several regional conferences around the world. You can see that we have already organized quite a lot of them. This is the second Latin American. I hope we will continue with this series. And this year we started also with a new series, Asia Pacific series. The first one will be in Gold Coast in Australia in 2 months. The conference series is organized by University of Zagreb and Instituto Superior Técnico from Lisbon, Portugal, who started the conference series 20 years ago. And the SDEWES Center, which is executive organizer of the conferences. We are planning to organize every even year a conference in Latin America. We want to create long-term partnerships with you. So if you think that your university might be interested in hosting a SDEWES conference in future, in 2 years, 4 years, 6 years time, we can talk, we can explore possibilities. I like coming to Latin America, so if you invite me to give an invited talk, I will come to your university and we can then see what are the possibilities. So I hope that this series will continue for the future. If we look at statistics, we started quite small with around 100 participants in the beginning. So this is what we have now in Latin America. I hope that the next one will already be a bigger one, but it takes time. Our name is not very famous in Latin America. We have to work on it all together. Why it is something that is beneficial for researchers. We have excellent cooperation with journals, top journals, and we can make it slightly easier to publish in those journals. Those who try to publish in Q1 journals, they know it's not an easy job to do. So if you go through special issues, through the conference, SDEWES conferences, that it's slightly easier because you don't already have to be a known name to publish in a journal because we offer you the name. Often papers are looked and then editors see they're not coming from a known group and then they have a more critical view of the paper. So in this way, we teach you how to publish because we tell you what you have to do in order to improve your chances, and we also make it slightly less hard to do it. We have published up to now 1,755 papers in special issues. So per year we publish around 300 papers now in 15 special issues in different journals. Also, we have started in 2013 Journal of Sustainable Development and of Energy, Water, and Environment Systems. That journal is now indexed in Scopus, is indexed in Web of Science Emerging Sources Citation Index. So in some of Latin American countries, Scopus is counted as good, in others not. So it depends on the country. It has current site score of 1.41. Already for this year is more than 1.8. We are Q2 in energy, engineering, and power technology, and water science and technology, and we are Q3 in several other topics. So you're most welcome to publish directly with the journal, or you can do it also through the conferences. If you go through the conferences, you get the fee waiver, so there are advantages. I will also talk more about this publishing on the closing session, so don't go away, stay for the closing session. But just to have a short sentence now about it, since we will have 4 conferences this year, we will only start special issues after Cologne conference, so it means in September. But if you have urgency for publishing, SDEWES is open immediately after the conference. So you just send me an email, and if your paper is in the scope of the journal, we can invite it. Of course, archival papers are the ones that are ready for publishing. For the conference, it's more complicated. So this slide was actually for Victoria, but I will just mention one thing which is very important for us. It's social networks. I know you're not so much on your mobile phones as Europeans are today. Europeans are just walking like attachments to their mobile phones. But we like to tweet and send photos to Facebook, Instagram. If you are using Twitter, please hashtag SDEWES everything so we can find it and then tweet it further. You can tag yourself because we will be putting all the photos of presenters. If you have Twitter account, please go to SDEWES Center and then forward it, share it, and tag yourself. This is the way how we increase the visibility of your research and also of the SDEWES conferences. So, I will now try to go a little bit more into why did we start this conference series. It's very different from most of other conferences. Most of conferences are collecting experts in one field. We don't do that. We are a very wide conference. Why are we wide conference? Because sustainable development is a very wide field. We cannot solve sustainable development from only one point of view. We have to have all points of view together, talking to each other and comparing how results of improving sustainability in one field is actually having an impact in other fields. Also, another important feature of this conference, methods that have been proven in one field can actually easily be taken and used in other fields. In this way, you can learn from colleagues from other areas how to quickly improve research in your area. Often, our fields are very closed. We don't talk with other colleagues from other fields. So we don't know what is happening there. This conference is a good overview to see what is happening in environmental protection, in water science, in energy technology, in energy transition, and to see how you might use the methods they're using there in order to improve your research. Everything started in a way with UN report, Our Common Future, which was written in 1987. It's so-called Brundtland Report that stated that sustainable development cannot be treated in isolation in one field from another field. So we have to look at everything: population, food security, the loss of species and genetic resources, energy industry, human settlement, social, economic, environmental aspects have to be looked together. Did we do something. Yes, we did quite a lot, but not enough. Currently, the main issues in front of us are climate change, waste. We are ballooning the amounts of waste. We have to find solution. Otherwise, the whole oceans will be covered with a layer of waste and the disappearance of species and habitats. So it's the same type of problems. We solved partially poverty issue, but there are still pockets of poverty. There are still things to solve, but these issues are becoming very significant. Let me look a little bit at the climate change problem. These are the gamma of all possible scenarios that could happen to us, depending on our policies, on our agreements, on technologies developed, on us. In the end, how do we invent new technologies that can reduce the warming of the global climate? What is the positive thing of what we did in the last 30 years is that this RCP 8.5 scenario, which was predicting around 5 degrees increase of temperature, is becoming less and less likely. We have now technologies that we can replace coal. And without coal, RCP 8.5 is not really that possible. It might happen because of the methane loop, but this is not yet completely understood. So we have already done enough job that we can now reasonably safely say we're not going to see 8 degrees increase of temperature. What we are now on the mid course is this RCP 6, which is pointing to 3 centigrade. So that's a great job. We did manage to do something, but not enough. 3 degrees, it's still too much. So we have to go, as we agreed in Paris, to 1.5, which is excellent for us working on these issues. For engineers, economists, we have to do a lot of research in order to move to RCP 2.6, which is where we want to get, according to the Paris Treaty. This is a big, big, big decision. It means reduction of greenhouse gases by 50–55% by 2030. It means phase out of coal by 2030. Already 20 countries have decided. All these blue countries have either already phased out coal or have decided to phase out coal relatively soon. The red one are those still fighting against, but slowly they will come to that point. We decided more or less to go towards electrification of transport, towards decarbonization of heating. We need a lot of heating. Europe is cold, so we spend 40% of energy on heating. And recently it was decided to stop investing into fossil fuel infrastructure, starting from 2021. So that looks like a very radical decision. I remember in 2008 when Europe has decided to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by 20% by 2020, to have 20% renewable energy in the energy mix, and to reduce energy use by 2020. I thought that was radical. But we did it, more or less. We managed really radical goals because if the political, there is a political agreement, there is good and just economical agreement and regulatory agreement, it can be done. Companies need long-term perspective in order to invest in right technologies. And they did it, and we managed. So it looks now extremely radical, but I think we can manage. Coal is actually economically not viable anymore. It's losing money. So last year, 20% of coal electricity was less produced in European energy system, which means that we are actually already moving quickly towards there, because closing down coal is a very significant part of the goal that we have to achieve. If we look at 1.5 degrees, you see how much we have to decrease the emissions. This is the reference scenario. This is what we would do with current policy anyway. The emissions in electricity sector are going down quickly. Solar and wind are so cheap that we only invest 98% on investment last year in EU was in wind and solar. So that would anyway go this way. We need this scenario for 2 degrees and this scenario for 1.5 degrees. It's reasonably possible, but we will need new policies for that. If we look for transport, the reference scenario is going down slower because the current policies are pushing only energy efficiency. But energy efficiency will be pushed so much with the new rule that all new cars have to be on average under 90 grams of CO2 per kilometer, which means that all car companies will have to offer electric cars. And last year, the sales of electric cars doubled in European Union. So this is going quite well. If we want to do the 1.5 degrees, we will have to very quickly electrify most of the transport. Regarding the small cars and long-distance trucks, planes and shipping, we'll have to go to some kind of electric fuel. Is it hydrogen, ammonia, or electric methane, or EDME, or some kind of fuel produced from excess electricity. So this is also opening a huge new field for chemical engineers, for example, because they can produce new types of fuels from electricity and CO2 from air. That's a huge new field for research. Ammonia, which we think will be used in shipping, it's also quite an interesting topic because it's a new, completely new fuel, and we are still not sure, are we going to use ammonia in internal combustion engines or just as a carrier for hydrogen and then fuel cells and then electric propulsion. But this is the way to go. So if we look at heating, that one is also slowly decarbonizing. Netherlands has banned gas boilers, so we are slowly removing gas from heating. We might try to decarbonize some of the gas by biogas, by hydrogen. So there are plenty of options and plenty of research for us. Well, we have started to think about banning single-use plastics. We decided to ban straws and many other things in Europe. If you look from the point of view of footprint, the alternatives might be worse for climate than plastics. That's true. But it's a relatively small impact on climate compared to coal power plants. So we can balance that impact on the other side. But it's huge impact on waste problem, because we don't know what to do with waste. Up to 5 years ago, we were exporting all the waste to China. I don't know what Chinese were doing with the waste. I don't even want to think, but they don't want our waste now. Now all the waste is back to Europe. Now we have to do something with waste, and it's growing, you know. Okay, we can incinerate part of it, but incineration is not very popular, and it also creates its own problems. So we decided to try to reduce the amount of waste. Yes, it will actually have higher impact on climate, some of the solutions, but it's such a tiny small bit compared to a big coal power plant. So it's not really that important. When we are thinking about sustainable development, you cannot just see one process and they say, okay, yes, impact of plastic straw is smaller than the impact of paper straw on climate. But what about other impacts? We have to look at the whole picture. So these plastics ending up on the beaches, it's not very nice. We spend usually a few weeks every summer before the season starts to clean the beaches in Croatia because they get so much plastics on it. This is very expensive. So if we take that into account, and then what we do with the plastics, it's many things, and that's why we are here to discuss it, to try to find the right methodology, which way to go. Another such thorny issue, which has different impacts on the different sides, is diesel cars. They're definitely better than petrol for climate due to higher efficiency. And this is why we were pushing very hard in Europe diesel cars until recently, because they spend 20–30% less fuel than petrol cars because of higher compression rate. But on the other side, they're bad for local pollution. They create lots of NOx, lots of particulate matters if they're older diesel engines. And now we have learned also that car companies have learned how to cheat our tests. So they're actually producing 30 times more than we allowed them to produce. So they're really dirty. But for the climate perspective, it is actually better to have them. From the local pollution perspective, it's better not to have them. So which side we choose? Climate is more important because it's a critical thing. It's a cataclysmic thing. But we have a solution. Now we have alternative technology, which is as good as diesel, hybrids, but pollute much less. So once the hybrids have shown they can work, we can abandon diesel. So we don't need diesels anymore. And that's why the markets for diesels are falling down 20–30% per year in Europe. It's done. So we can see how one problem which had different solutions from different points of view is solved once technical people develop a new technical solution. We always need new technical solutions. Coal is a difficult question also. It's a lot of jobs in Europe. So if we close coal, it means loss of lot of mining jobs, and we need to fund the transition. Of course, we can open new jobs in new sectors, but will the miners start programming in Python immediately? Not really. So we have to handle this transition. But I remember a very good lecture many years ago from Ingo, who said, well, look in Germany, wherever you have coal, people are poor because they don't have option to develop. In other areas where the coal was closed, people found great new jobs. It's painful, transition is always painful, but once you do it, you get actually much better off. So we need to pay for that because we need to care for the social, for the quality of life of our citizens, but we should do it, in my opinion. The time has come to close coal by 2030. What happens if one country decides to close coal and move to renewables, and the other country decides not to? Well, if the countries have interconnected grids, because renewable electricity has zero marginal cost, it will just swipe out the coal. And this is what we can see happening in US and EU now. Coal is just dying on the market. And not only in the countries with a lot of renewables, but also in the neighboring countries. It's spreading. So I think this problem is now more or less solved, but it was a long sustainability argument. I remember when we started the conference in 2002, we were having people showing that it's more sustainable to keep coal because we can provide food and salaries for so many families. Yes, it is partially true, but we can also find other ways to solve these problems, and we should try to. So, then we come to the crucial question of this conference. How to ponder various metrics. It's difficult. It's like, you know, measuring bananas and pineapples, apples and pears, how to ponder that. What is more important and when? This changes. We have to take into account economic, environmental, and social pillars. But in my opinion, there are two types of problems. There are problems that can be solved if you have enough money, and but they have certain costs locally. So it's a relatively small engineering problem. And then there are cataclysmic problems like climate change that we cannot solve locally, that we don't see the benefits of investing in mitigation immediately. We will see it, only our grandchildren will see it, or children, because it's a very, very long-term process. So it's not really easy to compare such two things. That is why diesel cars were good, even though they were killing people quite a lot. But they were good for climate. It had long-term perspective. But once we had a good solution for their climate side, we could get rid of them. So climate is always much more important than local pollution, in my opinion. But this is something that has many, many aspects, and we should discuss and try to find objective ways to calculate at this conference. Thank you very much.